We've all seen blockbusters, those big budgeted movies that explore far out lands and interesting ideas, those movies that build franchises and universes around them. But where did the blockbuster come from? We are so used to the blockbuster way of movies that we have usually thought that it's always been that way. But where did the blockbuster culture come from? Well, I would say that the blockbuster culture arose in 1977 through the 1980s. The blockbuster was popularized in 1977. The blockbuster was accelerated by the rating of PG-13, and the blockbuster created a new culture of movie viewing. So firstly, the first blockbuster is regarded by many to be Star Wars, which was released in 1977. Now, according to an article titled How Star Wars Shook the World, written by Jim Emerson, published in 2008 by MSN, Star Wars was a paradigm shift in movies. No longer did you have to have well-known actors in order to make a successful hit. And Star Wars didn't just stop at a movie, but created an entire franchise around itself. Not only that, but Star Wars revolutionized special effects. According to an article titled The Power of the Dark Side, written by Mark Caro in 2005, published in the Chicago Tribune, he quotes Kevin Smith, a writer-director, saying, "Lucas and Company reinvented the cinematic special effect. Nobody looks at these films as mere movies. They haven't since the opening weekend phenomenon of the first Star Wars back in '77. So basically, Star Wars set a new precedent for movies. No longer was it just about famous actors or the plot, but rather it was about spectacle, what you could show the audience, something they couldn't see before, something to amaze the eye. But it wasn't just Star Wars that accelerated the blockbuster. The other movie is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, released in 1984. Now there was a bit of controversy around this movie. It wasn't gruesome enough to be rated R, but it wasn't good enough to be rated PG. And so it was rated PG, and there was many people who were complaining that it wasn't rated R. And in an article titled How Indiana Jones Finally Forced Hollywood to Create the PG-13 rating, written by Frank Pallotta, published in 2014 in Business Insider, he quotes Steven Spielberg saying, "We need a rating between R and PG, because so many films were falling into another world, of unfairness. Unfair that certain kids were exposed to Jaws, but also unfair that certain films were restricted, that kids who were 13, 14, and 15 should be allowed to see. So because of this push, the PG-13 rating was created, and 3 months after The Temple of Doom, Red Dawn was the first PG-13 movie. And now, 6 out of the top 10 highest grossing films are rated PG-13. There are 5 ratings, and one of them accounts for 60% of the top 10 highest grossing films. So PG-13 has allowed for the blockbusters to skyrocket, because there's something about the PG-13 rating that just seems appealing to audiences that allows for movies to be sold even at higher rates. So now let's look at the culture of the blockbuster. According to the book High Concept, written by Charles Fleming, published in 1998, movies nowadays are all about the spectacle. They're all about high concepts and interesting creative ideas to shift the person's perspective, to see something spectacular. And according to a book called Blockbuster, How Hollywood Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Summer, written by Tom Schoen, published in 2004, he says, quote, "What a grand piece of historical luck it was to be in your early teens when Raiders of the Lost Ark came out, when Spielberg and Lucas were in their prime, and the very act of going to the movies seemed to come with its own brassy, rousing John Williams score." So basically, the blockbuster created this sense of awe in the movies. There was just something that was spectacular to see, and this has pervaded into culture today. You go to the movies to be wowed, to see something spectacular. So now you have heard of how the rise of the blockbuster culture came to be. It came to be because it was popularized in 1977. The blockbuster was also accelerated by the PG-13 rating, and the blockbuster created a new culture of movie viewing. I now hope you know more about your movie culture and where it came from. Thank you.